So I'm starting this reaction series where I comment other content creators, tips, videos, whatever, because I believe some content is either wrong or incomplete. So let's debunk some stuff. This is mastering the mix with this content creator, Z0, that... Did he block me? Okay, so let's look at it.
With using samples and presets. No matter if it's splice or a sample pack, majority of sounds are normalized and peaking at -1 or 0 dB.
And that's true.
It makes easier to browse through them, but
That's true.
for mixing, it's a nightmare.
Why? Why is it a nightmare?
Even a single kick, hi-hat and snare will clip your master bus. So
Why? You don't keep most of your track at 0 dB when you're producing with samples and presets. Of course, you use the volume fader to bring them down.
where is the space for other instruments? To prevent this issue, aim to have your main samples at around -12 dB peak, either by using fader or utility tool.
So I kind of agree with the anchoring thing. I usually keep my kick drums at -12, -10 dB, and I usually use the volume fader and not the utility tool. I use the utility tool if I want some more headroom within individual instrument track.
And it has two benefits. One, you will end.
So what's the problem with normalized or squashed samples? So it's that they are squashed most of the time, especially kick drums, snare drums, and you can do two things about it. You just lower them with the volume fader or the utility gain, which is static mixing, or you can use volume envelopers, compressors, expanders, whatever, and change the envelope. And that's mostly what you need to do, because having something already squashed will make it difficult later for bus processing and mastering. So you want some dynamics to work with, and that's my tip for it.
End up with -6 dB headroom for mastering.
So this is partially bullshit. So you don't need -6 dB for headroom. You can also use -5, -4, -3. You can also go +1 or +2, or you can just go over the 0 as long as you work in a floating point environment. So most DWs nowadays work at 32-bit or 64-bit floating point, and you can just go over the 0 dB without clipping. And that's possible because of the floating point technology, and you can always kind of export it in wave and bring it down. You won't have the clipped signal at all. So you can also use the master channel volume fader and bring it down. I mean, I don't usually do it, but it's possible. You don't need the -6 dB. You don't need it. That's just all this stuff.
And two, if you use analog emulations, it will give you a full VU range to work with without a need to adjust input signal.
So, for the individual tracks, you might use the utility to kind of find the sweet spot for this analog emulation, which usually is -18 dB. And for the buses or the master chain, you just use the volume faders of the tracks because, I mean, you want to kind of meet that value. But you can also use the utility at that point too. So it's not mandatory, it's all about the genre, the style, and this kind of analog emulations don't work really well for modern genres. They work better with live recordings and all those kind of things. You can still use them, but I mean, that's not the secret sauce. Another thing about these plugins with their kind of magic sweet spot is that they are arguably negligible. You can just hit them at different volumes, and yes, there will be some slight differences, but within the whole context of the mix, you just don't care about it because you are using the plugin and you're reacting to how it sounds. So if you want that kind of -18 dB sweet spot placebo, just go for it, but I wouldn't care that much, honestly.
You don't need to stick tightly to those values, but
Okay, I agree.
they will help a lot as your starting points. And remember, using samples and presets is not a crime.
Why would it be? It's not a crime. We already know it. And so I think this creator is really good at creating the visuals and all the storytelling, but he's so clickbaity that he needs to have to put kind of arguable stuff at the beginning of his videos and leave the important ones at the end, and by an educational standpoint, that's not it. So this is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you want me to comment other content online, feel free to link it in the comment section down below. So that's it for this video. See you in the next one.